Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Earthborne Rangers. Now, this is a preliminary kind of discussion. If you're not, familiar with my channel, one, I do a lot of campaign games, and instead of waiting years to get a discussion out or a review over it, I always do like a quick review after kind of diving into it, and then a secondary review, discussion 2.0, if you will, when I finish the campaign, or if we don't finish the campaign, there's usually a reason for it. So, at this point, I have finished 3 days. 3 perfect days, what you'd call them. Which to me seems like that's the tutorial-esque thing. You're not really doing a whole lot. It kind of gives you an initial mission, and then you just kind of learn how to travel and deal with the cards to really get into the nitty-gritty of how the system works. And I'm thinking on day 4, there's a thing to read for that will probably, hopefully, kick off the main story. But overall, Earthborne Rangers was a game that had me intrigued from kind of its overall concept. This world that is not meant to really be about attacking or killing. Like, everything that you're doing, like, you have ways to kind of harm creatures and stuff, but the overall theme is that it's about living in a very peaceful hermit kind of world. Is that you're this ranger that is meant to go from location to location and just helping out. It's a community. All the cities and all the locations have this communal, gathering of humanity's overcome basically an apocalypse, and now you're in this Horizon Zero Dawn style world where just nature's reclaimed, and we came across this valley that has this massive, mystical spire in it, and everyone banded together to do what the ancestors, which is us, to not do what they did. And that was always a very cool concept. It's like, oh, okay, if I come across a creature, I'm not trying to kill it, like I don't have a gun, but there is a harm value, but it's more of like stress. Like, if you come across like a bobcat, or in this game, it's an Aatrox, you can either try and, soothe it and get it to be like, alright, leave you alone, or you cause enough stress that it eventually leaves. But it's like, it's not hit points. And that's very fascinating to me. This kind of card layout system is very reminiscent of Arkham Horror, the card game, which I absolutely love. So, my initial thoughts of Earthborne Rangers is it's fantastic. It's super, super good. And there's a moment when you're playing this game, at least there was a moment for me, where I was kind of thinking it was going to be basic. Like, oh, okay, there's an animal. Okay, I play my animal. But then, that was like day 1. Day 1, you're barely doing anything. But then whenever it kind of like loosens the reins for you, and it's like, okay, we'll go to White Sky, and then just explore there. Then you really start to see kind of how thematic this game can get. Every action you do kind of has a description to it. It's like, oh, you want to travel, you want to search, you're in White Sky, you want to search the shores beside the towering parasol of White Sky? Well, do your check there. And depending on how you kind of initially built your ranger, which I went for a very heavy connection. I wanted a lot of animals and to be able to talk and deal with animals, which I'm very strong on. I'm lacking in other areas. So that's really cool too, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm not really the best at this. How am I going to overcome these challenges? And that's when you really start to see the cool card play. The fact that you, like in my case, I play out a bunch of animals and have a bunch of cards that like make predators not be predators anymore, that have my animals put progress on them and move them around and exhaust them, so that these creatures and stuff that I can very easily, work with. whenever I want to go and talk to people, I'm able to do that successfully. And you start to get those really neat combos and succeed at what your strengths are. And I think that that's awesome. Whenever I'm looking at cards and I'm like, oh, okay, that creature's a 7 clear rating for its progress, that's not that difficult for me. Like, I can have my dog move it around and add progress to it. I can put a bunch of connect into it and use an intention translator, and then the other cards that have those symbols in my hand, where it's like, okay, so I have a 7, and okay, so that's a 7 with a spirit, so that 7 that's done, I actually succeed. So it's very fascinating how you at least initially feel like you're not doing a whole lot, to where once you start becoming comfortable with your deck, then you really start kind of honing in and doing a lot of really neat combos. And that's exactly how Arkham Horror the card game is. Like, whenever you kind of are figuring out how your deck is working, and then you're dealing with stuff throughout the mission, or in this case, the world, when you're traveling from location to location, not really knowing what is at that location, because you've never been there before, that thematically makes sense. If my character is all about talking to people and dealing with animals, but yet I'm coming up across a bunch of obstacles and non-creatures and locations that I'm not equipped to handle, that to me is actually very fascinating. And it lends itself, like, I chose to play this as a solo game because I felt that it was going to be more solo-esque. But I could see this game being played with, with a bunch of just different Rangers. If you play this game 2-player and it's like, okay, well, I'm like our talker, I'm good at connecting with people, but you're the one that is really equipped for traveling, so your spirit is super low, but your focus and fitness is super high, that, oh shit, we're coming across these razor shoals that I can't deal with. Oh wait, you can break them all for each other, so now you help us travel. That's such a cool concept, and again, very, very reminiscent of Arkham Horror the card game, just in a much more pleasant world. Like, this is a world that I don't do this a whole lot. I've only done this for 2 games now. And that is Tidal Blades and Oathsworn. Both of those games, well, Oathsworn I literally just did because I finished the campaign, but both of those I read their lore books because I was fascinated by the world that was created. And I did that with this one, and I keep this by whenever I'm playing the game to reference. Now, I haven't finished all this. I'm about, how many pages? I think I'm exactly halfway through. I got to page 44, so there's 95 pages. Some of them are just pictures. So I think, actually, I'm pretty much halfway through. But I was fascinated by the history and the world that they created, so I actually read that before playing, and that enhances it so much more. When you know, oh, I'm going to this location, and I know a little bit about it, just as a player, lets you get a lot more invested in what's going on. I just think the exploration of this game is done so well, because it could have been very abstract. Like, it could have been, it could be very difficult to put theme in a card game like this, but because every challenge that you do has gray text to tell you exactly what you're doing, and whenever you're building the path deck and you're drawing path cards to put along the way or within reach, or I don't remember the third one, but you're actually putting them in these certain positions that's kind of like, hey, here's your player area, these are your cards, player area, what you're currently interacting with, what is in between you and what you're trying to get to. So it's like, hey, I'm trying to travel to, I'll just keep saying, I'm trying to travel to White Sky, but there's all these obstacles that are actually in my way that I have to deal with, and I keep being harassed by this stupid, bird, this vulture kind of thing, so I have to deal with that while I'm also trying to climb up this, sharp rocked hill. and then you're playing your cards to try and help deal with that. Like in my case, it's like I'll bring out my animals to help me deal with the bird while I'm doing the best I can with my fitness, which is like mid. Like I have 2 awareness and 2 fitness, and then 3 spirit and 1 focus. While I'm trying to deal with the obstacle that's in my way. And just the simple fact that there's only like 3 tokens, not counting your energy, but like 3 tokens, it's so simple and so dumbed down essentially, but it works. Whenever you are putting progress tokens on like an obstacle, for example, it makes sense. It's how, hey, I am actively climbing up this thing. I am making progress to getting over this. And once I hit the threshold, that means I have succeeded. I have now gotten over that. And they do the randomization. I think it's it's a similar way. Like Arkham Horror, it's the draw from a bag. In this case, it's a deck of cards. But they do really cool things with this, in that it's not just a oh, here's my test, I need to get a 4, I draw and I got a 0 modifier, so it's a 4. It's not just that. The fact that they eat, like whenever you are doing tests, which is a lot of what you're doing, you draw a deck, or you draw from the deck, and then there's a symbol on it. It's like a mountain, a sun, and I don't know what the red one is. Does it actually say on here? Oh, sun, mountain, and crest. And all the cards that are active, that are out on the board, that aren't exhausted, that have that symbol, activate what that is. And it all pertains to what's actually there. So it's really cool. A good example is like the pouncing Aatrox will be like, hey, if there's a prey here, or like one of the prey cards can be like, hey, if there's another predator, put damage on this card. Like exhaust that predator and put damage on the prey because that predator interacted with that prey. That's how this game shows that it's like alive, and it's not just static things sitting there waiting for you to overcome them. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying that this game for me is better than Arkham Horror, the card game. It's not, but that's just because there's like the world I love way more with Arkham. I love the gameplay still way more. There's storytelling in it instead of... There is storytelling here, but there's more of it there, but there's also just way more cards, way more content. But it is very reminiscent. Like they both do kind of the same thing. So if you're like, I don't want to deal with Lovecraft for X, Y, and Z, then... but you love the idea of the way that game plays, then Earthborne Rangers is a really, really good alternative. And I would actually say this does things better. I love that the cards interact with one another. Or, like for example, you have a weather card, and there's always going to be weather on the day, and that's just based off of the campaign sheet. But your first 3 days are a perfect day. Like there's just no clouds, and so whenever you are making progress towards something and you happen to draw the mountain symbol when you make the test, it's like, hey, if this added progress, it adds more because nothing hampered you. It was literally a perfect day. Everything went right. But eventually, like those clouds are going to go away, and now it's going to be a midday sun. So now, okay, well, hey, the clouds went away and now it's super hot. So, whenever you get the sun symbol, it causes you to become fatigued because the sun is bearing down on you and now it's becoming super hot. But you can do focus actions to try and find shelter to add more clouds to that so that it flips closer to more of the perfect day. You waited out the sun to hopefully get some clouds when you're traveling. I love the fact so far this game seems very open world. And there's a couple things that, and I'm only 3 days in. Literally day 4 could just be, boom, here's the main thing, here's direction. But 3 days in right now, I don't necessarily have a sense of direction. And you might be thinking, well, Seth, isn't your favorite game Sleeping Gods? It is, but Sleeping Gods still gives you a bunch of missions. it gives you a bunch of like, hey, here's directions you should go, and you pick one, and you're like, hey, like, it's the first thing of leaving the tutorial in Skyrim, and it's like, hey, by the way, come meet me at this village, and you can be like, all right, no, and you could beeline it, but you're just bombarded with a bunch of side quests that you're like, all right, that one sounds fun, I'm gonna go do that. There is something about making your game too open world where you're directionless. Where it's like, I guess I'll go here, and then you take all the time to actually go there, and then you're like, okay, well, that wasn't really worth it. Like, I think, and this game does have missions, like, it has side missions, and that did occupy my first 3 days. Well, mainly my day 2 was getting to deal with both of the side quests, but I did have something to do, so this isn't really, like, a negative. But, like, my day 3 was, like, I got a side quest that I don't really know what it means. I'm guessing I know what it means because, like, after just, like, kind of thinking things through, I'm like, okay, I think I got it. But still, it's like, I'm hoping that there is an overarching main story that I could either just beeline it, or I can make small progress towards it, and then eventually, like, as I'm making progress on the main story, I get more side quests to go do. Because there's not a whole lot of missions in the game. I mean, there's a decent amount, and maybe some of these are repeats that are pertaining to, like, if it's like, hey, like, help me, help me find this person, help me find my necklace, or whatever. And there's multiples of that, depending on which city you're in. I could be in Tumbledown, or I could be in Meadow, and you can get the same mission, but it'll have a different reaction or impact depending on which one you actually complete. Because there's a lot of, like, spots on the mission sheet for you to fill out. Like the archaeology mission, I'll write down and put on what day I got it, and then as I make progress towards it. So it seems like there will be missions, but as of right now, I'm kind of just like, alright, well, I guess I'll just go here. And that's neat, too. Like, being able to explore and see the beautiful artwork. Like, this game is gorgeous. It is amazing, amazing artwork that really emphasizes the world that they created. Sometimes if you just get, like, a glimpse, like a guy I talked to mentioned, hey, I'm going to be... once you clear up these ruins, come find me. I'll either be studying at the Fractured Wall, or I'll be at the Spire, or I'll be here. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll just head to the Fractured Wall. And then you get to the Fractured Wall, and you're like, oh, and you learn history about it. And, yeah, you kind of have to find him. Which, where the hell was he? Oh, he was 2 cards away. Dang it. But, sometimes you have to find them, which is a little weird. You can't just get to the Fractured Wall, and it doesn't take you to a section. God, it doesn't take you to a section in like a book where it's like, okay, you made it to like kind of how Tainted Grail does it, where it's like, oh, hey, you went to this location. Here are all your options. What do you want to do? It's okay. You got to Fractured Wall. Now, you got to look around. There's no real way, because some of the location cards will tell you, hey, do this, and you can look around. Like White Sky is like, make awareness checks, and you can look through the path deck and pick one, which is you searching, trying to find someone. Fractured Wall doesn't have that. It deals a lot with features, so you have to have ways to be able to search through the path deck, which would be some cards. Like Riri, my Sparrowhawk, I can do an awareness survey check that I could scout path cards equal to my effort and then draw one, so I could actually send my bird off to pump a bunch of effort into it. Let's say it was like a 3 check and I got a +1. That would let me draw 4 cards and scout for them, and then be like, no, oh hey, I found him. Like, that's the guy I was looking for. So I could send off my bird, and she comes back, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's where he's at. That's like kind of how thematically every card is tied. And he shows up, and then I deal with his, text in the book. it's so neat. I think it's very, very fascinating how they managed to make a card game feel like it's a living, breathing world. And on top of that, making the character that you built, which is in the prologue, which is really cool, kind of how it explains, okay, here's what your background and your specialty, what you want that to be. And there's quite a few options. I mean, background, traveler, shepherd, forger, artisan, then specialty, artificer, conciliator, explorer, and shaper. You can do any combination of those, 8 things to get a completely different deck. And over the course of the game, you're going to get rewards and cards that will, already I have a new animal, like, that I did a quest for to tame, and now she's part of my deck. And then I got a gear from helping a guy find a fishing thing, and that's in my deck too. So that's really neat. It's not as deck buildy, I don't think, as Arkham Horror will be, but it's still here. And that all hones into who my character is. The writing itself right now it's nice. Like, it's not like peak writing, but it's good writing. So, like, it could have been very generic, and maybe that's why I like it, because this doesn't feel generic. This isn't yet another fantasy world. It's its own thing. It feels familiar yet foreign, which is nice. And the writing is just kind of a very nice, pleasant. Like, I don't have to go in there and open the book and then just expect that it's like, oh man, you showed up in Meadow and everyone was crucified and their babies were strung. It's like there's not any just like horrific shit right now. I don't think there is gonna be, but it does lead me to think, well, what's the overall thing? What are they doing? Because there has to be some reason for you to be doing what you're doing. So I'm hoping that instead of there being like some big bad evil thing, I'm wondering if it's like, because the Spire has like this mysterious metal tower that, as far as I remember, no one has been able to get into. So I'm wondering if there's going to be some weird tech thing with that. I don't know. I am very, very intrigued. This is a pleasant game to play. It feels fleshed out, so I'm excited to continue and just see what the game has to offer. So I don't really have much negatives. Yeah, I mean, not really. Like, besides the fact that as of right now, it just feels a little aimless, but I think that that's probably going to be fixed literally the next time I play, because again, I'm about to start day 4. But that could also just be their goal. Like, their entire game could just be roam around and do missions, but I think there has to be a main mission overall. Yeah, I don't know. I think each turn is very, very straightforward, especially playing by yourself. You just have your hand of cards, and if you get fatigued, just take the top card, goes there. Play cards, you can only hold a certain amount. You exhaust cards, you spend your energy. When you're done, you just reset it all, draw a path card, draw a card from your deck. Go from there. You just keep going until you feel like ending the day, or you're forced to. If you ever, take a bunch of injuries, or you do a mission or something that tells you the end of the day. But really, you can just do it whenever you want. So it's very free form like that. Yeah, I'm very impressed. I guess my only negative is I absolutely hate how they packaged the box. I know why they did it, because it's a green style game. If I'm not mistaken, every game was produced in the country that it ordered from. So like mine was made in North America. I think if you got in Europe, it was produced in Europe, so they reduced on shipping and fossil fuels and all that, being they just did their due diligence to be able to try and reduce as much waste as possible, and I very much commend them for that. However, the only thing I absolutely hate with games that are doing that is that you ruin boxes. Like, they put, instead of putting plastic, saran wrapping it, they use tape, and the tape isn't the kind of tape that can get removed easily, so I just have this gunk on the side of my box. But that's it. That's all I could think of as like a negative. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's there, which I could probably easily get like Goo Gone, I think is what it's called, or just just keep scrubbing and eventually it'll go away. Yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm very intrigued, and we'll see how the rest of the campaign goes. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna go with a 9. I think Earthborne Rangers is really good and very pleasant, and it seems like there could be just tons of replayability. Like, I feel like I'm missing a whole bunch. Like, I went all the way to Fractured Wall in day 3. Didn't even I saw one thing while I was there. But yeah, like the actual card play is fantastic. It's so exciting, and I'm loving the world. So yeah, as of right now, Earthborne Rangers gets a 9 out of 10 from me, and we'll see how the rest of the campaign goes. And I hope you stick around to see how that goes. But yeah, let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.